Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of Keeping the Wealth, where we talk to successful people about how to hold on to your money now, tomorrow, and well into the future. My co-host here is Hillary. Hillary, thank you for stopping by. And Brian Barnes is in the house. Brian, thank you so much for Paradise Financial. We're going to ask you a few questions geared towards our wealthy clients who don't want to go broke. Do you have any expertise in this realm?
Um, it's not about net worth, it's about cash flow. I learned that a long time ago.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, so you work with a lot of wealthy clients.
Yeah.
What did they tell you about their plans for the future now that rates should be coming down? Are they waiting or are they pulling the trigger on real estate right?
Most of them right now, the most of the business, 90% of my business is actually investor business from the loan standpoint. The thought process is, okay, so rates are, in the sixes right now. They've come down a couple of percent. But if rates go back to the three and fours, which, depending on elections, prices could continue to climb. So, and we're seeing rents climb. So most of them right now are either upgrading the property, selling what they have, and upgrading, a single family home into say a 4 unit. Uh, a lot of people have diversified into stocks and bonds. Now they want something that's tangible, something they can hold on to. They've seen too much volatility in their lifetime with the stocks and bonds, so they're buying real estate.
Okay,
So,
so good.
and real estate's a long-term hold. There's two parties to that. One's the flipper market that buys, fixes up, and sells. Most of them still own investment properties. The other ones they're buying as much real estate as they can, with the idea of a long-term hold. When I say long-term, 7 to 15 years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
Um,
looking at the next cycle. They're riding cycles.
Good, good. Hillary, what are you thinking?
a lot of people have become wealthy by flipping real estate. We are still in the first half of 2004. Should investor be looking for those good flip deal or should they stick to the sideline for now?
Yeah, it's mixed. I do investor loans as well as the hard money, for the flip type properties. I'm involved in that. And I would say it's 50-50. I have some hardcore just want to flip, and that's the revenue stream, presently. I've got others that have more liquidity or, have great credit, great jobs, and they want to get into expanding their portfolio. Or in some cases, I've had some young people in their late 20s, early 30s buying their first rental property.
Wow. And so I would say that the people who read the headlines and say, "Oh, don't get real estate right now. There's going to be a crash." That's nonsense, right?
Yeah, those are the people that make great tenants for me over the years.
Exactly. If I wanted to spend $5 million right now on investment real estate, would what? And I'm thinking long term, not fix and flip. Should I be looking at apartment complexes, strip malls, maybe a little casino in Nevada? What should I be buying?
Well, if you could find a casino in Nevada for 5 million, I'd say grab it. But I think those days went away about 20 years ago. To be honest, the licensing's so strict. I've got some people buying units, but they're buying lower end units. Having owned that type of property in my portfolio in the past, um, you may not get the ROI, the return on investment with a mid-priced home, but you get better quality tenants. I have some interest. I own a property management group that I'm involved with. As well as my fiance. She works for a property management company. The lower end homes gotta go out with sometimes. Those are the ones that have a constant turnover, constantly needing repairs. The homes that say, let's say in the 5 to 700,000 range, they're getting good rents for those. Maybe not as high as if they had a couple of really cheap end properties, but not having to make $20,000 in repairs every other year and having a lot of vacancies and evictions. You don't see that with the higher quality properties. You've got a different tenant base. I was out yesterday with her looking at a low end neighborhood in Sacramento region, and three tenants came up, and not a single one of them had current tags on their car. So my thought process, to her boss was, don't rent to them. It sounds terrible, but if they can't pay the registration fees as high as they are even in California, if they can't pay registration fees, they probably can't afford to pay the rent on time. So I don't care what their credit scores are. They're not paying bills or something currently going on. Why are they moving? Um, I stay away from. That's why I say I kind of personally I used to own a lot of condominiums. The idea was I had different marketplaces, Bay Area and up here. Bay Area did actually good, but even in the Bay Area, I had a constant turnover. Um, I was looking for cash flow. This was my younger days. And looking back, I'd been better off to buy 4 or 5 homes in the Bay Area, or, up in Solano where I was at the time, than buy these lower end rental properties because of the massive turnover I had with them. In fact, I remember one night seeing on Channel 2 News a drive-by shooting in Antioch at the time. This was years ago. And I looked at it, and that was our property.
Wow.
So we evicted the tenant because he got arrested, and he put quick dry cement into the plumbing in the bathrooms, and it was about $15,000 to make the repair. So needless to say, I started selling those type of properties off and moving up to a better tenant quality.
Good, smart move. Hillary, what you have another question?
Yes, should wealthy people be stockpiling cash now or should they invest now?
Um, cash is always king, but I would look at some, hard numbers on some investment properties, whether it's a single family. Um, I've got a client right now buying a 30 unit, out of state, but same thing. I think it's going to be lower end tenants. They're going to give them a headache, even with property management. You always want to retain some cash. Who knows what the future is, but there's nothing wrong with a hard asset. And like I said, it doesn't matter what your net worth is. If you want to go sit on a beach in retirement or not have to worry about money. It's all about the cash flow, not your net worth. So,
Wow.
yeah, money in the bank's getting you what 5.25%, and I'm sure you guys can show them a much higher return on investment. On what I call a hard investment.
Absolutely.
It's hard to beat that.
What are some of the habits that wealthy people have that the poor do not have? And one of the habits is paying your car registration.
Well, pay your bills because you don't need money in this world, honestly. You need good credit. I know a lot of people that have managed to not retain a lot of cash and continually invest with 800 credit scores. Usually lower economics, have the 550 credit score and can't buy they're stuck in a cycle they'll never get out of with debt, etc. I've seen it where they file a bankruptcy and they come back 3 years later and their credit scores tanked again. They've had a second opportunity. So wealthy all my wealthy clients, when they come to me, and I have a number of them I've worked with I've been doing this 44 years. Some of them I've worked with for over 30 years. They always have 800 credit scores. Doesn't matter what the economy is doing, doesn't matter how much cash on hand, or they've always maintained perfect credit, which gives them the ability to go borrow credit, borrow money to do the investments, to do the flips, or whatever investment opportunities they run into. Unfortunately, lower income people typically uh, don't have that ability to borrow the money and negotiate rates and things like a wealthier client can. So, the rich get richer, but, their mindset's different. Right out of college or right out of school, they maintain their credit. We're taught that. That's one downfall of our school systems. They don't teach how the importance of having good
Nice
credit.
is that you borrow money for that college loan and the government will forgive the debt later.
Yeah, I have a little, I won't say what I think of that one since I put myself through school, working full time selling real estate and never took out a student loan. And I was able to do it. So I don't understand why these kids today can't do that.
Exactly. Okay, well, then I'll stop asking that question and Hillary will ask the next one.
A lot of our viewers are investing outside of California. If someone need to finance investment purchase outside of California, what state are you be able to loan in?
If it's if it's 1 to 4, I'm limited to California presently just because of how I'm licensed. If they're looking at units, commercial properties, I can lend in any state. Hard money, same thing. I've got contacts in a lot of different states, direct. Hard money is kind of all over the board. There's also private money, which is a little bit different. That's where you're borrowing from one individual. Most of mine are more, I wouldn't say institutional, but it's an organized company that pools money with investors and lends it out. So, Arizona, I know is one state that I could actually do that in. The hard money transactions, non-owner, are regulated different than, say, a forward mortgage, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. That's where their NMLS licensing comes in.
Right. Now, so one smart thing that wealthy people might be doing today is buying at today's prices, knowing that when the rates go down, the value of the property is going to go up.
Typically, yes.
But then if they're going to refinance, say 1, 2 years from now, Are there a lot of costs involved with then having to refinance again, or do you have any kind of a trick for that?
Yeah, they could, let's say rates drop to 3%, 4%. If they don't want to do a no cost loan, they may see 3/8 higher in interest rate. And as a lender, we pay the money to do that. Their break even point on that is about between 7 and 10 years, depending on cost. Typically, most even investors only keep a loan for 7 years. So, same thing with buying down points to buy a rate down. I talked to a customer out of it yesterday. I don't get paid anymore for being honest. I get paid the same no matter what in the lending and environment since 2010. It was going to take them 11 years, not including tax benefits, to buy the rate down where they wanted to. So they got a 5.6 VA loan. They wanted to buy it to 5%, and the cost was like $30,000.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a gift from the father-in-law, and the father-in-law insisted to do it. I talked him out of it and said, go do some improvements to the home, go remodel some bathrooms, put a new roof on, whatever the house needs. Actually, the house doesn't need anything. I saw the appraisal came in today on it. You're throwing good money away because statistically, I said, what if rates drop down from the 5.6 and go to 4.5 in a year from now? I can do a no-cost loan then, or a minimal cost loan, and you're just throwing away $30,000. There's doesn't make financial sense. I've never charged a customer points to buy down a rate unless it was a seller credit from a builder we had to burn. But if it's out of pocket, I've done probably 8,000 loans personally and over 26,000 under my license. I've never encouraged my team to charge to buy rates down.
Yeah, it
Just
doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah,
not at that cost. If 1 point buys you a 0.5% rate that day, it's a good deal, but most of the time it buys only a quarter. And that occurs sometimes in the marketplace, anomalies. At that point, maybe I'll bring it up, but I don't think I've ever charged a customer, had them buy a rate down. Maybe a couple times, like I said, due to builder would be it.
right.
So, the whole idea is to save the customer money and they come back to you. I've been doing this, and my advertising budget throughout my career has been zero. My advertising budget has just been good service and give them the best deal possible. So the phone rings every day.
Very
I'm
nice.
pretty blessed that way.
Yeah.
So.
You run a team of agents. Do you have any advice for other people that are trying to build a team to do whatever? How to
You know,
right?
that's a hard one too, because I've been very successful in my career where I had at one point probably 600 loan officers.
Oh my God.
Early 2000s, and I made a lot of money. I won't lie. It's an old adage: if I make 600 people and I make $1 an hour off of each of them, that's $1 million a year, roughly. So the problem was in my industry, especially like a lot of industries, as the employee count went up, my hard costs went up. And this was before we have all the technology today. So the more people I hired, the more office space I had. So the return on investment, it was a diminishing return. I got to the point where I made more, honestly, when I had 20 loan officers than I did, 500. And people go, how's that happen? Well, all of a sudden you're paying $100,000 in rents on, half dozen offices throughout the state. And in this industry, if you guys have been in it, you can have good and bad months, you can have good and bad years. Problem is your fixed costs are what kill you. So today, for me, I had by 2010, I was down to about 110 employees, loan officers plus staff. Um, I personally had a stroke 3 years ago, and I eliminated the company. It's on basically a stasis. I didn't renew it this year. I'm working for somebody else because the most money I ever made historically was working for myself because I can work from home, I can work from a small office, but the minute you have employees, the demands start in. And in California, especially, then there's a question: are they W-2 employees, which in our industry is, versus a 1099, which is the real estate community. So our costs go up. One of the things, I used to hire all my people off the street and train them as new loan officers. Up until 2010, I never hired an experienced loan officer. I went to Nordstrom's, Macy's, good restaurants and stuff and good service because I don't sell loans, I sell service. So anybody who thinks that they're in the sell house business or sell loan business, I think they're wrong. I think I sell service. So, you could ask my people back in the day, what do you sell? And they'd say service. How can I help you? Even though the product we delivered was loans. Today, I don't know how I've turned down bringing on new people because I don't know, I've got an idea. We can talk about it later where I think this industry is going as a lender. And I don't think it has a very good future as loan officers. And I can explain why if you guys want to hear about that.
Let's keep talking until Zoom cuts us off.
Okay. Well, I'm doing a lot of these second mortgages, HELOCs.
Uh-huh.
And I got involved in them because I knew people that I gave 2.5% rates, a couple of years ago, were not going to refinance. But we all know people always want money. It could be to buy an investment property, it could be to put a pool in, kind of dumb. It could be fixing up, kids going to college, whatever it may be. So I started about 4 months ago really pushing the HELOC product. Don't get rich, they're small loans, but there's a volume to them. Um, I stumbled upon a company who is beta testing an AI system. That's all we hear about is AI. I can literally take 6 pieces of information, none of them which are your social security number, and approve you up to $500,000 in about 5 seconds. And they're paying me a decent commission, my normal commission on it. The problem is, why do they need me? You could go to Costco with a kiosk at the mall or at the mall, plug in your name, address, telephone number, email address, your birth date, and your household income, not just your own, but the whole household. Hit click, and in about 5 seconds, you're approved. There's no appraisal, there's no title escrow, and the next day they'll have all you have to do is send them a W-2, current paycheck stub, something that shows that you're working. They're not even asking where you're working at, and have that $200,000 dropped in your account after a 3-day rescission. So in 5 days, I could drop $200,000 in your account. You have about 5 minutes into the transaction. I've got about 15 seconds. I get paid a normal commission. I have to step back and go, second mortgages are the worst performing asset that a bank has. Um, if these perform, which I think they will, and they go down to a 620 credit score, um, then why not do it on first mortgages? Why are they paying out billions of dollars a year to loan officers?
Uh,
Why? Consumer direct. So I think in the next 5, 7 years, luckily I'll be retired. My career is going to be gone. And I tell people that, and they look at me like I'm crazy because they've never used the system. I have a few peer loan officers with other companies that have been trying this out the last 2 weeks. I'm kind of helping them along because you got to know the system like anything else. And they're like, oh my God, this is going to replace us in the short term. And I said, yeah. So I'm not bringing on new loan officers because I think the consumer direct. Now, it only works for good people, good quality, borrowers, okay? But it goes down to a 620 credit score. If you've got borrowers that have problems, there's still going to be a traditional model for loan officers, but I think it would be 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 would be left in the business. Statistically, those aren't good for an industry that's already lost 73% of the people have left the business in the last year as loan officers. So there may be some business model down the road, but I don't think they would pay the commissions they do today to originate when the word got out that someone could, with 5 pieces of information and not include your social and apply it a website and have your loan money deposited in 5 days, or in this case, it could be a purchase.
but they don't have to get title insurance, anything like that?
Out in the seconds, no.
Oh, wow.
So title companies aren't real happy with that because down the road, I can foresee the same thing happening on a first mortgage, a Fannie Mae loan, and title escrow would become almost unnecessary unless there was a title problem. So you would see 1/10 of the people that are in the business now have a career. So as a new person, why would I want to come into potentially that would not be a high income position? Um, the consumer would go direct, and you'd only handle problem loans that did make it through the system that were in contract or people really wanted to try to push it through. And I've been beta testing this. I'm national trainer for this company for free. I should ask them for money, I guess, on how to do these loans across the country with the software and all the issues and problems you're gonna have. One problem we found recently, I had $250,000 loan approved. The gentleman doesn't have a personal bank account. He only uses a business checking account. They won't accept a business banking account. Can't tell you why. It's the only one he has. Unfortunately, I have the same situation. I haven't had a personal bank account in 10 years. It's a lot easier to have as a small company or a one-man shop to be able to write everything off in one location than chasing down my personal bank accounts and chasing down American Express and everything else for receipts. It's also a lot easier for an audit because they can go in and see where I wrote checks, unless you're cheating on your taxes. But, in my industry, I'm so regulated, I wouldn't even dream of it because I could lose my livelihood, getting clocked or something like that. Whereas a contractor could do it, or someone who works at, in a mom and pop shop could get away with it. So, but technology is going to change everything. How we get loans, how they're priced out. the speed and efficiency. And I think that a lot of pieces of the puzzle, kind of the same thing they talk about buyer's agents. I sold real estate in the 80s, and there was no buyer agent. That didn't really get created until about 1990. So in the old days, I'll go back when I was selling real estate back in the early 80s, we had an offer. We wrote it on an addendum. Our commission structure was a 2-page contract, and we presented the offer to the seller in person. All the offers were done that way in person, which nobody thinks, that's horrible. And part of what we went there was to present our buyer, but it was also to present why we were worth that 3% commission we were asking for.
Right.
And, if they'd argue with you, then say, well, I have the power to retract the offer. And you get that in writing from your client that if they wouldn't pay me, they wouldn't buy the house. So buyer agents are going to have to work a little smarter. They're going to have to show their worth. So this whole industry is going on its ear right now, through legal, through technology, and people are going to have to adapt. And where it's going to land in the next 10 years, I don't have a clue.
Big changes are coming. Hillary, do you have one final question?
Yes. If you were starting out in the lending business today, what would you do?
I wouldn't. I'm honestly, I don't think I would. I haven't brought anybody on. I've trained, literally probably several thousand people over the years. A number of them are still in the industry. Because I don't know what the future is. It's not like if you're an engineer, that job's not going away, or if you're a doctor, that job's not going away. When I got in this business back in the 80s, it was doctor, lawyer, banker, the banker being the loan officer. When I started the business, I started in commercial, and I had $5 million signing authority as a 20-some-year-old kid, I call myself, at Glendale Federal Savings and Loan. I could even appraise the property because I had an appraisal license before there was an MAI commercial. So I could underwrite the loan, I could do the appraisal, and I had $5 million. It just had to be countersigned by someone who reviewed my work. You don't see that today. But back then, you had to have a degree in finance. I went to UC Berkeley to even get that job. When I switched over to residential, it took me 2 years to find someone to hire me, which was San Francisco Federal back in the day. It was a very high-end, career. Today, it's gotten diluted. It's gotten dropped down. Anybody can jump in the business. There's been a lot of fraud in the industry, which is why we've had massive changes when they deregulated, in a sense, who could work in the business. Like I said, back 30 years ago, if you didn't have a finance degree, you weren't a loan officer. You could not work in this in this industry. And they let anybody who could get a real estate license or less at the banks. There's no requirement. They just have to get a number, work there. So the professionalism has dropped to the point where I think that something like AI could replace anybody new coming in the business. It's unfortunate, but that's how I feel, from what I'm seeing.
Interesting. Brian, thank you very much. Do you have any final words for our audience?
Invest. Put a little cash away, put the rest of it in a hard investment, which I call real estate. The return in the bank may be safe if the bank doesn't go out of business, but the return is so low today, compounding out a 5% return. Real estate, even in a normal market, will appreciate, 3 to 5% plus, depending on what you put down, cash flow. It's a leveraged investment. So hands down, it performs way better than cash will, or 99% of stocks. I didn't buy Apple stock at $5 in 1998, 1997 because I'm an idiot. I'd be retired. But that would have been a home run at the time. We thought they were going out of business. So, in the stock market in Japan's, you put money in stock, that's one of the competing things to real estate. You realize in Japan, the stock market, I don't know if it still is, it was regulated just like a gaming, just like a casino. They considered it gaming. A lot of countries around the world do. I should tell you a little bit something, what it's thought of.
Gamble, yes. And
so I like hard assets. I've invested in exotic cars over the years and made a lot of money. I like something I can touch, feel, drive by.
Exactly. Okay, final question, unless Hillary has another one, is what's your prediction as far as real estate interest rates?
Depends on if Biden gets reelected, I see rates going up. If Trump gets elected, I see rates going down.
Okay.
Confident, rate, nothing changed with the Feds other than the confidence level that the Fed had with inflation, that the market couldn't correct itself. So, but raising the rates like they did in that such a short time period really stalled out the market last year, and people have been sitting on the sidelines. And I think if rates tick down a little bit more, you're going to see you're going to go back to those multiple offer situations, not because of low inventory, because you've got a lot of people coming back in the market.
So in
And
other words, when we get a businessman who loves America back in the White House, the market will correct itself.
I think, yeah, I think it will self-correct itself. When you go into depressions or recessions, whatever, the only thing that changes is people's mental state. That's it.
Yes.
Nothing overnight changed
No,
in the
yeah.
economy. It changes because it's self-fulfilling. Oh my God, I heard that, things are going to get worse. So I shouldn't go buy the new car, or I shouldn't buy the new refrigerator at Costco or whatever. It becomes self-fulfilling. Just people's perception thing changes, and then the market changes. So if people feel positive that the leadership in our government is, going to clean, drain the swamp and get things back on track, that, the market's going to correct, the rates will come down, and you're going to see a strong real estate market in this, what I call a recovery.
Okay, everybody. All right, we're going to see you guys next time.
Hey, thank you for inviting me on, guys. I really
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it.
We
And
appreciate
we'll talk soon.